All right. Call this meeting to order. I don't see any changes to the agenda, so.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the agenda as posted.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. First, we have the Board of Ambulance.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we enter into the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And these are refunds. All of them.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the invoices as presented and exit the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the Commissioners' invoices, Commissioners' reports. I got my question answered. We paid $700 for a cottage cheese. It just
Nice.
made me wonder what the heck was going on up at that event center.
Big picnic.
Wondered if one of these entertainers had a fetish or something. Should I say that on the record?
Too late.
Let's see.
That it for the invoices? Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the invoices.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have alcohol license.
Denied.
Then we have
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the alcohol license.
we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then this is junior college or forms. Sponsorship agreements and, oh, yes, let's do that.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the junior college payment as requested.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then these are vendors from the 4th of July and sponsorships. Jason, you sign that one.
Nope. I'd make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the vendor licenses
We
or
have a
vendor
motion.
agreements.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ended your business.
Okay,
Okay.
Chantal Aulu with Indigent Services. The first case that I have for you this morning is case number 20230022. It is an application for assistance with cremation expenses through Cornelson Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. Our recommendation is a denial of this application pursuant to Idaho Code 313403. It appears that the deceased owned property or real estate at the time of their death and the county would not be considered a resource for payment, as this real estate or property would be considered a resource before the county at this time. And then did you want me to go to the approval first?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
And then the next case that I have for you is case number 20230023. It's an application submitted for cremation expenses through Wilkes Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. The application was submitted by the funeral home, and all of the information that we obtained was from the deceased estranged brother in Wyoming. This is a unique situation. There was no information in the state's website at all regarding this individual. He was 52 years old. He was homeless and transient. It's unknown how long he was in the state of Idaho. However, it does appear that he had multiple interactions with law enforcement beginning of June. So it does appear that he meets criteria to be eligible for assistance through the indigent program in Bannock County. Would be the last resource, and the brother of the deceased has agreed to repay the county for assistance upon approval of this application.
Mr. Chair, on case number 2023-0022, I make a motion that we deny that claim. And on case number 2023-0023, I make a motion that we approve that claim.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right, Chief, you're up.
And go back.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we re-enter the Board of Ambulance District today.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Good morning, Commissioners. Ryan Hearn, Fire Chief, Bannock County Ambulance District. I have two items for you today. I believe Ms. Wynn was going to be here regarding the ambulance standby request. I can address the other item first if you'd like, and then we can see on that one.
I thought she was going to be here.
The other item I wanted to bring to your attention was our long-term purchase agreement with Braun Northwest. This was executed in October of 2018 by the commissioners at that time, and it was for a period of 5 years and set to renew for an additional 5 years in August of 2023. So I wanted to just bring that before you and also recommend that we not automatically renew that. Some of the reasons for that would be just for us to evaluate other options and potentially bring either another long-term purchase agreement through you or through coordination with procurement, take advantage of other cooperative purchasing agreements that we may have. So we thought it was just a good time to evaluate. The 5-year purchase agreement didn't lock in any pricing, and so the pricing that we're getting is in line with other cooperative purchasing agreements. And so we just wanted to bring you that information and get direction from you on whether you want to automatically renew or allow us to pursue, just evaluate other options. We may continue to purchase through Braun, but
So the 5-year, I mean, if it didn't have a price lock-in or anything.
yeah, really what it does is it kind of limits us in our product design. And sometimes we're limited to a certain specification that we had in the original bid, and so we go back and say, well, we'd like to change the configuration of this bin. We're only allowed to make up to a certain percentage of change, and so this would really allow us to evaluate our spec and potentially change that or come back with another agreement.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. So,
I think the only guidance, I'm not clear whether you would like for legal to send a letter or whether me just drafting a letter to Braun, letting them know that we're not going to automatically renew. I'm happy to do that. It seems like that would
Yeah,
meet the requirements. So.
if you just draft that letter, I think that'd be fine.
Okay, great. And then on the ambulance standby, so I'll just proceed, and we were requested to do an ambulance standby tomorrow and then Saturday morning and evening for the Marsh Valley Pioneer Days Rodeo. The crew with the various South County ambulances have said that they can cover the ambulance standby using one of our event ambulances, so it won't impact the current service in South County. Those ambulances will still be in service during this event, but they said they can staff it with volunteers, so there shouldn't be an impact to the district. She is asking for a fee waiver for the standby, covering 12 hours. We do charge a fee for ambulance standbys generally, and normally that's because we have to staff them with paramedics that are in on overtime or EMTs that are in on overtime. In this case, where it's being staffed with South County volunteers, there shouldn't be an impact to the district. There won't be an impact to the district.
And I guess my only question is, they're gonna have just the lava ambulance there first?
She said the Lava ambulance, but in coordinating with the coordinators down there, Lava is gonna primarily staff it, but we're also gonna open it up and have people from Downey and Income there just to
The staff?
increase the number of volunteers there that may be able to participate and support the event.
My question is, why the Lava ambulance? Because over the weekend, isn't that typically a busy time for Lava? Would we rather have the Downey ambulance there?
Well, but the ambulance is still gonna be in service, probably in Lava. We're gonna use an ambulance that we have here in Pocatello. It's what we
Oh,
call
okay.
our event ambulance, so they'll come up and pick it up. And so some of the personnel from Lava will be staffing it, but it won't be the Lava ambulance.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then that was the other question that I had. Their insurance, or most rodeos are required to have an ambulance there. They have to shut down if they don't have one there. And they're talking about somebody being there with their jump bag.
There will be an ambulance there.
Maybe this is her right here.
Are you Connie?
I am.
Hi Connie, come on up. That's all right.
We're talking about the ambulance right now.
Yes, sir.
And in your notes here, it says that if the ambulance was pulled out, somebody would be there with their jump bag.
Yes, sir, that would be my husband, Van Wyn.
Would that meet the requirements for the rodeo and the insurance? Because in other rodeos we're up here, they have to shut down if an ambulance isn't there.
Besides Van, there'll be another gentleman there, Darren Armstrong, who also runs with the Downey ambulance. So we would still have two people there who has run with the ambulance crew. So, I mean, we would still have two ambulance.
And our plan is to have an ambulance there.
Ambulance, okay,
And
that's right.
it'll be there for the duration of the event.
I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page
Right.
before we make some of these agreements. Questions, comments?
No, I'm good now then. So, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion, we go ahead and approve the standby fee waiver for the ambulance in the Marsh Valley Pioneer Day Rodeo.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right?
Sorry,
Thank you,
I was-
Commissioners.
Sorry, I was late. I was told 9:15.
Yeah, you're fine.
And it is, we're just able to go 15 minutes early, and when we run out of other things, we just keep going.
Oh, I'm perfectly fine. Thank you guys
You all
very
ready
much.
for the rodeo then?
Yes, sir. Except for setting up. You guys want to come on by? I'll put you to work.
That sounds like an offer you can't refuse.
Well,
Or come and enjoy it and enjoy good old rodeo cheeseburger.
there you go.
There you go.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Motion to go out.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we exit the Board of Ambulance.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Shanda?
Aye.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer. I have an procurement update for the board today. So I would like to start with the concealed weapons detection upgrade here at the courthouse. That request for proposals has been submitted through legal to legal for review. I anticipate that back any day now, and as soon as that's out, then it'll be posted in the paper, and we'll move forward with that solicitation. The next one is the janitorial contract. That one has been issued. It was issued out on Monday due to the new state procurement rules where they adjusted where we need to publish for formal and informal bids. That is now back to a semi-formal bid and does not need to be published. It was submitted through Bonfire, so it went out to about 800 different vendors, as well as our current contractor and the company that showed interest last time we went out for bid. We're both personally invited to participate in this. The landfill scale house engineering services has also been issued. We received 2 questions on that, and the addendum, the first addendum, the responses to those questions was issued out yesterday. And for direct testing services, Excuse me, we are working on finalizing that contract as far as the team, what the different departments needed, and then that will go to legal for review and comment before it gets put out to test for, again, right there, review and comments. Once everybody is on board, that will come before the board for final signature and approval. And just the last item I wanted to update the board is on any of these fiscal year 23 projects that have the potential of going into fiscal year 24. I have updated the comptroller, submitted an email to her just as far as my understanding of the project, which ones we think some of the funds might be utilized in 24 and which all of the funds might be used. So then we'll just be able to track them through the budget process and make sure that we have the funds available when they're needed for the departments.
Are we thinking the concealed weapons will be done this year?
No.
No?
No, not complete. There is the slimmest possibilities that a company that bids on it, it will be awarded before the end of this fiscal year for sure. If they have everything they need in-house and if they have available installers. But to me, those are some pretty tall hurdles to get done by the end of the year. But that will be discussed once the project is awarded, right, that time frame. That's the part of the piece of the RFP going out is that time frame of how soon they feel they can get back in here and get it done. But I feel those are pretty tall hurdles to pass for this year.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And let's go ahead and, Charity? You staying up here, Shannon? Are you part of this too?
A piece, yes.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Charity Staggs with Southeast Idaho Council of Governments, here to talk to you today about Swiss Gulch Fuels Reduction Project and Cottonwood Valley Restoration Project. To start with Smith Gulch Fuel Reduction, we ran into a problem. The landowner who originally gave us consent has passed away. Now the land is in probate and we have no idea how long that probate is going to last. So we have a few options moving forward. The first is we can cancel the project, cancel the MOU, send the money back. The second option is we can delay the project until the probate is completed. We do have about a year and a half on the MOU, but probate can take much longer. The third option, and after talking with Tyre, I believe this is the best option, is to change the project scope and move that money to a different location. We have a couple, the only stipulation with the money is that it needs to be spent on land that is near a federal project. Talking with BLM, both our 9 Mile and Big Onion projects that we have submitted applications for in the past have federal projects near them. So we can move this money over to one of those areas, as well as once we use that money in that area, we still have the application out. If that gets awarded, we can continue that project and do more acres in one of those areas. BLM recommended the 9 Mile area.
Where is 9 Mile?
It is by Lava Ranches. So it would be protecting that neighborhood in Lava Ranches, which is south of Inkom. Lava Hot Springs, I apologize.
Oh, believe me, we've been talking to a lot of them on that.
So, yeah, they recommended, they said they've done a lot of work out there. They recommend that if we do move the money, move it out there. But Big Onion is also an option.
And so talking to the landowners, which one do you feel that the landowners, what's going to benefit the area the most?
The 9 Mile, because it is protecting that Lava Ranches neighborhood, there's just a lot more people that are being protected out there. I would recommend that one as well. There are 3 landowners, potential landowners. One of them we've already worked with, and he's been great. And the other 2 have been very eager to get work on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, the 9 Mile project is probably going to be our best option because we've prioritized that. And what we do with working with our federal partners is working through the Community Wildfire Preparedness Plan, the CWPP. We're ranking, and the feds would like to see support going into these specific areas. So with the feedback we've received from our federal partners, we agree 9 Mile is probably the best option for us to work into.
So if we shift the project, do we have to rebid it, or can we take the existing contract and just move it over there and nothing changes?
We did ask that question. We've had some talks with legal. There are a couple options, but we believe the cleanest option is to rebid it because changing the location is a significant change of scope.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna happen till fall.
It won't happen till fall, but we are going into fire season right now.
Yeah.
IDL won't be able to do any changes, MOU changes, until August anyway. We can use fire season to get this procurement process jump-started, possibly done, and then we can get started in fall, which is actually great mulching weather.
Well, that's what I just didn't do. I just didn't change the location.
Yeah, no, 9 miles.
Move forward, I mean, we have money allotted to us already.
From the grant perspective, what do we need to do to get the project changed over?
We will need to create a new map, which Joe is willing to do, and then send him a request with the map, the name of the federal project, and a request to move the money.
With the rationale of why?
Exactly.
So we just paid some money into this Smith Gulch in our claims just now. So that'll be covered through the money that we already got?
That's my understanding.
How's that? Okay.
Can we get that in writing from IDL?
I'll work on it.
Just because I don't want them to come back and say,
Yeah, absolutely.
You changed the scope, therefore reimburse us. And then can you forward that to the grant team, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we'll send out a notice to the contractor and the grant, and let them know that we're gonna change locations, what our intentions are.
Yep. Make request. Perfect.
You have any concerns, legal?
Oh, no, I was just talking to Mr. Corker about if it's in probate, there should be an estate administrator. If there's an MOU that's signed, could still be effective. I don't know if you've had any contact with them or not.
Yes, he said that his attorney recommended making no changes at this time.
But, yeah, there's some things going on. Anyway.
Okay.
Additional issues.
All right?
All right, perfect. Any other questions on that project? Perfect. Now, Cottonwood Valley Restoration Project is moving beautifully. They started June 19, about 2 weeks ago, and they've completed almost entirely the largest section. So they're about 60% done. Probably will finish in another 2 weeks before fire season starts. We were able to add additional acres. There was some extra money in that contractor budget. We're able to use that and add some extra acres to that section.
Fantastic.
And that's the only update I have for you today.
Okay. Well, this next part that Wes is gonna talk about is gonna talk about fires and fire districts. Are we gonna be done on our projects as we put a restriction on these things?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
We got a project going and we're gonna put a restriction on them so we can't do our own projects?
Yeah, and the thing is, with that burn ban, we wanted to move that out to the 15th instead of the 1st of July. The previous years, we had a lot of focus on fire season because of the drought and the weather conditions and the lack of moisture. This year, we have had ample moisture and snowfall. And so with moving it out to the 15th, we wanted to make sure that we also include the concern to provide support to those recreational facilities so that they can have open pits that are under watchful eye and consideration, which is why we have the 3-foot diameter and the burn pit and everything else included in there. Because last year's concern was a lot more strict, because we didn't want to allow it because of the drought. This year we can have a little leeway in that. That burn ban was provided to legal. Amy provided me with the burn ban, but I haven't had a chance to proofread it in its entirety.
Okay, and I guess this brings up, because the sheriff called me the other day, because one of the fire chiefs in one of the districts went out and says, I'm putting in a burn ban. What's the legalities of that? What authority does a fire chief have to put a burn ban in?
I'll have to get back to the commission on that. I don't know off the
Okay.
top of my head.
And that's Pocatello Valley,
Yeah.
and that's their fire district, so I think it's coming from their fire commissioners.
But
And then on this burn ban, you'll notice that Downey is not included because they didn't want to go with the burn ban, and they're going to wait until the weather conditions gets worse.
And that's my question. Do they have a choice or not? If we put one in Bannock County as the commissioners, so I guess that's
Does that supersede?
the legality that I'd like to know. Fire chief doesn't have authority to make rules and laws. So it just made me wonder. I don't want mixed checkerboard
Right.
fire bans throughout Bannock County. It just doesn't make sense. So, and this, you say goes effect on the 15th,
Yes.
and so if you look that up, and then we'll review this again on Tuesday to sign it or make it effective. But I'd like to know the checkerboard effect and whether we include Downey or whether they want to or not, or what, just what needs to happen there.
Okay, I'll just wait to hear from Brian then.
We have these gift agreements, and it's pretty tough if every fire district's
Yeah.
got different rules. That's what I'd like.
Yep.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Wes.
Thanks.
Let's see.
Comptroller.
Comptroller, Christie.
Christy Clauser, Comptroller. I'm here to bring before you the FY23 Forest Service election. I think all of the board received this email. This is an election we have to do every few years now. And Commissioner Huff asked if I would present this as a recommendation for action. Reading through the information, we have a couple of different options. We can allot money to Title II or Title III. Title II keeps money with the Forest Service, who then gives us money for special projects on federal lands, which we've utilized those in the past. Usually Road and Bridge will do some work like at Mink Creek or Scout Mountain, areas like that. There's road and trail maintenance, there's watershed maintenance, and then we can also utilize it for noxious weed control. Title III monies require some external reporting and allows for Firewise programs, which just in the presentation before this, you saw projects that those monies are used for. We're already getting those projects. My recommendation would be to continue to elect to use Title II monies. And we, in the past, I believe we have done 20%. You can elect anywhere between 18 and 20%.
Okay.
And then I think all you need to do is, within the packet, there is the form that you fill out. If the board, whatever the board would like to do, I can complete this for you and then include it in the packet for Tuesday if you like. Or you can have your stuff do it.
Any questions?
Title II, that's your recommendation. Is that the one that you said could be used partly for the noxious weed issues? Okay.
Yes. And it's all on federal lands, but. Question?
No, Christie and I talked about it earlier, and I felt her explanation would be much better than mine, which it was, so thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, I would go with the controller's recommendation and ask her to fill that out, and then we'll approve it on Tuesday and
Do you
sign.
want to do the same 20% we've done in the past?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
I'll put that together for Tuesday.
Signature on tax cancellation from the assessor. This is to individuals that allow the homeowners exemptions.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the tax cancellations as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we have minutes from June 20th, 21st, 22nd.
Are you holding off on 6th Street? Till the end or-
No, where'd I miss it?
Should be after.
Oh, there it is, ARPA. I just already put a check on it. Let's do the minutes and then we're done with all that.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
You have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's have a discussion about, ARPA discussion pertaining to 6th Street changes and entrance. Come on up. Well, you're our experts. There was supposed to be a drawing. Did anybody ever see that?
Is there one in your packet?
Is that this thing? right
Photograph.
here?
It has a schematic diagram of how that would reconfigure for striping.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Potential parking and traffic flow.
Okay.
Paul Jensen, Planning Director, Bannock County. Depending on how you chose to restripe and direct traffic, in a previous conversation, we spoke of creating one-way traffic in what was that section of 6th Street and going from north to south with traffic flow, which makes sense for the direction of the one-way streets that surround us, as well as the directional traffic of our parking lots from the alley to 6th Street, etc. Currently, you have approximately 10 parking spaces, parallel parking on 6th Street. If you were to go to a configuration similar to this, it would give you somewhere between 30 to 32 parking spaces, allowing you 3 additional handicap accessible parking spaces with direct access off of the 6th Street entrance into the courthouse. The other item is to take the existing retaining wall on the south side of the entrance, take that down, and then extend straight out to the curb line and widen the entrance into that 6th Street side or the east side of the courthouse. That would require that we take, you're gonna have to do a study on potential water collection and how we would deal with that storm drain that sits in that sidewalk now. Everything else is pretty straightforward for curb gutter sidewalk. If you chose to, on 6th Street, restrict traffic, rather than just leave the mouth of each street open and restrict it down so that it's probably 15 feet to 16 feet wide, so that it shows only one-way traffic, and then post your signage, etc. Those are the ideas that quickly, at first blush, kind of give you an idea of what the potential is for making that happen and gaining, and gaining approximately 20 spaces.
The one concern that the assessor has over there is they bring in vehicles in to do the inspections. And where would we do that?
We could blank out and restrict parking right in front of the annex, going one way from north to south. People would come in, be heading, park in, and they could come out and do their assessment right in front of the building. And restrict that parking. You would lose however many spaces the assessor says, would request that they need to conduct that task.
Okay, that was, and I really like having better handicap accessible parking in that area. I like a one-way direction of traffic. Talking about the entrance into this building, I would like to have a covered entrance. So that would take care of part of the storm drain concerns.
Somewhat.
But I just watch people come in all winter, and it's a garbage collection right there. The wind blows and blows everything right down there in the bottom. So, on accessibility in the elections, is there any concerns
No,
there?
as I'm looking at this picture, I think what we would end up doing, because a lot of our poll workers are elderly-ish, at least our chief judges that come pick up their packets and their equipment. So on days that we're going to have them, I would put out chief judge parking only or poll worker parking only, and kind of restrict this, and probably let them come in a parallel fashion the way that they do now. But we'll just, I don't see any problem with this, because 95% of the time this will add more parking. It'll be great. It'll be no problem. And then just on those days that are our pickup days.
When those guys come to do this pickup, how long are they there for?
They are there for as little as 2-3 minutes up to 10-15 minutes, depending on their questions.
I'm just wondering if maybe we can shift those around to the back side. Maybe not have us park right there so it's easier, and they've got that ramp right there. Just as a thought. I mean, I know we've got time to think about it, but.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering about even putting a ramp off the front that, for making handicap accessible off front, because I see people, they don't know where to park.
Right.
They don't know where to go when they come into elections. And if we had some handicap parking in front of it.
There, without fail, at least one or two voters that do require a little extra assistance to vote. They've kind of figured it out now for the most part. Are regulars. They just go back there and park. I've told them park wherever you want back there, and then come in the ramp. But there's always another couple that they come to the front, and then I have to help them get all the way around the back, or whichever. So a ramp would be nice in the front.
And then the other thing I've thought about is just outside on that side where the grass is, get rid of that grass and make that deliveries or contractors that can pull in there. Because constantly we're blocking that drive-through.
You're talking between the drive-through and the retaining wall for entrance.
Yeah, on the north retaining wall.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense.
I-
You'll also notice, Commissioner, on that drawing, that particular sidewalk, which is on the north side, I showed a development of crossing 6th Street with a sidewalk, which would then connect the two buildings. That doesn't have to be that location, but it makes logical sense that it would be placed there so that we could communicate foot traffic between the two buildings.
Okay. And then another thing that we mulled around a little bit is putting a gazebo type deal out there with the eagle in it. I mean, that eagle's was donated to us. That's up on the 3rd floor. That just kind of,
It's hidden away.
it's just sitting there. It doesn't add anything, and then we're gonna go smoke-free on this campus except in designated areas. And so we need to have a conversation of where those designated areas are as we talk about this. Do we put a bus shelter in that designated area? You know what I'm saying? Just a cover somewhere to control that.
And I've had some conversations with some employees who are frequent smokers and have had some suggestions from them I could bring to you.
You probably can't say them in this meeting though, huh?
No.
But I think that as we're talking about this whole picture, that we need to look at the whole picture. And as we go into next year's budget, we're talking about, making things a little more accessible over in the assessor's office. The table, the countertop and different things. So I don't know if flow, windows, as we're talking about 6th Street, to me, a lot of this just kind of flows together. That we need to look at the big plan, and if we do put parts and pieces of it maybe at a time or whatever money we have, but we need to look at the whole picture and not come back and tear up the asphalt right after we pave to put a sewer line across.
Our sidewalks and ramps are in pretty rough shape. It'd be a good time to address it. I'm sure the fire department will want some input as well, make sure they still have their access that they wanted. But the storm drain is definitely a concern. It doesn't keep up, and that does end up being the garbage collection right there. The only other concern I would have is like the trailer registration, people bringing in their huge camp trailers, like where are they gonna?
And there was a 40-foot car hauler over there yesterday.
Yeah, that's what brought it up to my mind too. It's some big trailers come through there.
Yeah, and Anita's commented about that too. She's just got to have room.
Okay.
So,
I guess at some point we're going to want a stamp drawing too. I mean, I don't know at what point you want a designer to come in and draw it up.
yeah. Well, I know Terrell had Booth draw something up once. Did you ever see that?
I didn't either.
Terrell had Booth draw something up once. And
Should be able to reach out to Booth and ask him for a copy, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
so you can look at it, but.
Okay.
But like I say, I think it's time we need to get started. And we talked about ARPA funds and other funds.
Without knowing how much, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what the
mean,
best
this
option's gonna be.
this project, I mean, it could go anywhere from a couple million to 10 million, depending on what you do, it seems like.
The sidewalks are, while we're at it, might as well replace them. I mean, falling apart, and a ramp on the front of the elections building would be a great idea. The one on the back of the building is really starting to fall
Yeah,
apart.
it's falling apart.
Yeah.
That railing's about to fall off.
Yeah,
Well, anytime you have a 90-degree angle on a ramp,
yeah,
it's tough to be called handicap accessible as somebody in a wheelchair.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that said, Dan's comment about, replacing sidewalks. If you're gonna replace sidewalks, in the study, you may wanna find out how much advantage you have to moving the sidewalks back towards the courthouse and back towards elections to enhance the width of 6th Street, and rather than have diagonal parking, you may find that you get more parking with perpendicular parking by adding another 8 to 10 feet. So there's some things there that are still need to be studied that make sense.
That's a great point.
Okay, so what's our game plan?
Right. I'd call Booth and get him drawn.
Okay,
And I think first, if you're gonna do anything with Sixth Street, they're going to ask at least for a simple topography survey so that they know where everything drains and where it flows, and if they're going to be making changes, how they would utilize that existing infrastructure and then make sure that their new design flowed back to that without having to move that infrastructure. You know, those types of things, so.
So how do we allocate money to get started on this?
Just authorize them to go get the drawings and then we'll, I mean, we can use ARPA. We've got just over $2 million in general county monies. Right now, the way monies have been allocated. So we could just say, we'll get drawings, we'll pay it out of ARPA, and then see what the cost is going to be and go from there. But we would have sufficient funds there, depending on how much it costs. Any idea how much that would cost to get the drawings? I mean, 10,000, 100,000.
Stop. Whoa.
I'm just
That's a big jump.
Just ranges.
Your topographic survey is going to be probably somewhere between 1,200 and 2,000.
Okay, and then the actual drawing?
Probably somewhere between 8 to 12.
Okay, so we're looking at maybe 15,000. We could either pay that out of ARPA or we could find another revenue source. So you could approve it, and then once we get the actual bills, we can allocate where it's going to be spent.
Okay. You have potentially another revenue source besides ARPA to do the drawings?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll always give you a couple options.
Very good.
You might have an additional 6,000 in drawings relative to what the scope of the entrance on the east side of the courthouse would be. So just be aware of, once we define actual total scope, that gives you an idea of topography, site development for parking in 6th Street, and then building in those three different
So even
forms
within
of monies.
I'd like to move the
20-ish
sidewalk this way,
thousand.
though.
I would think so.
There's no reason to have.
I think that's a great idea. I like that.
Without knowing,
I'm not sure the other one didn't have it.
do you need to give Booth direction on how you want, like, the covered area to look, or just make it covered and do it? I mean, some architects tend to do a little more grandiose ideas rather than,
Well, I went over and walked through our juvenile center, and we have some pretty smart people that do amazing things, and so I kind of leave it up to them
Okay.
myself. But
no pressure.
let's go ahead and have a motion to go up to $20,000 on the,
Is it 20 or do we need a little bit more based on what Hal's last comment?
I mean, I estimated high on some of these other numbers.
Is
So
20
you think
enough?
21?
I think one would,
Okay.
should cover you.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we authorize to spend up $20,000 for drawings and design work on 6th Street
And the entrance?
and the entrance, yes.
we have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll start that way.
All right.
Do you want to do another overview of ARPA funds and projects so that as we do the clerk recommendation, we could potentially get some insight as to direction?
So you said we have roughly 2 million right now?
So for ARPA, where we're standing as of the last update, which we haven't made any changes since the end of April, there is just over 1.2 million that needs to be spent in allowable expenditure categories. So it's a little more restricted money. And then we have just over 2 million for general county purposes. Do you want to, Jason, you want to run through some of the projects that we've talked about?
So some of the projects that are just kind of, we've all heard, that we're talking about for budget this year, the Sixth Street and security redo, the courtrooms, HR moving, the event center security cameras and things like that up there, the coroner storage area, the assessor counters, paint, all of the things that she presented, and then a juvenile probation remodel over there. Once half of them move out, or however many end up moving over here to the village, doing a remodel there.
And that 60,000, I think we might be able to fit within the expenditure category area. I could get with Brian and see if he thinks that'll fit, only because that would fall under the regular guidelines of what ARPA funds were originally intended to do, is create the separation and allow for spatial appropriateness. So I think we might be able to fit that 60,000 within there, but we would need to do some additional looking into that. Of the other projects, the HVAC unit, we could probably fit under ARPA. I believe that was one of the categories, expenditure categories that they approved because of air circulation. And then those are probably the only ones that I can just, without doing a little bit more research with Brian, that I can think might fit within those categories. But that'd be about $270,000 of ARPA funds.
So if, talking about spacing and stuff, if we made individual offices over here and got rid of cubicles and stuff, I think that might fit within the space.
Yeah, that's exactly why I think that'll fit. I just don't want to tell you yes
Yeah,
without looking at it with Brian.
but I'd say that that's got to be one of the priorities. I mean, the separation over there and privacy and stuff. I mean, we build a whole new facility over here to do the same thing. So to me, that's got to be kind of high on the list. Some of the stuff over here at Anita's, I don't know if we can do everything, but that's got to be the counter. We've all talked about that. That's got to be pretty high on the list.
That's one we talked about yesterday at the assessor's office, and just how far to go with that. So it's needed.
I'd still like to put new planking down up at the event center.
In the
In
grandstands.
the grandstands. When I went up there the other day, they haven't been looked at since I was a Boy Scout. I mean, I don't think we're at the critical area where they're could be condemned, but I wouldn't want it to come to that point either where you get people breaking through some of that stuff. Other projects, things,
How much did you say we had with restricted?
Restricted funds, we've got just over 1.2 million that we need to get spent.
Sorry?
That we need to get spent, and then just over 2 million. If you want exact numbers, it's 1,223,175.
1.2 was close.
Okay.
What about the unrestricted?
2,057,000.
Okay.
And all of that is with the current projects that have been approved, which could be subject to change depending on certain projects.
Very good. Of course, I've said this many times, I'm pretty sure up here that, in my mind, I'd like to see as much of the ones that are for general use that would have no restrictions put toward the general projects related to the general fund that would reduce the amount of money that we're asking the taxpayers to spend. That's where I'd like to see as much as possible that money go. If I could put 10 million there, I'd do it.
And while it's ideal to identify projects during the budget process, we do have the money within the ARPA funds that we could just budget the cash amount. And then as projects are identified, go through the open meeting process to identify those for open and transparent process. Just because some of these we're not going to necessarily know, but during the budget process, we'll put as many of those in through the clerk's recommendation that we can. There's also time restrictions on what individuals can get done unless we're able to outsource some of the projects. But
So Dan,
You know, 6th Street, I would think a lot of that's gonna be outsourced, but, as far as like the juvenile probation, that's not a big project. Coroner isn't too bad. HR suite and the courtrooms we've got those down pretty well, so. I don't see anything on the list that's too scary except for the 6th Street.
and when you went over to talk to the assessors, have you prioritized kind of the things that are over there?
Mhm. Yeah, that signing counter for the public is one of the easiest and one of the highest priorities. But then, I mean, going up from there, just giving it a facelift, painting and that kind of thing. But those counters that the workers sit at are so low that they can hardly fit in. Like the tiniest little ladies that work over there can barely get their knees under those desks with their cash drawers and things. So for me, redoing that is going to be a big deal. I know Anita, that's one of her highest priorities. And then up from there, I mean, while we have ARPA money, I think unless we decide that we're going to absolutely bulldoze that building and build a $10 million building there, we have ARPA money. Let's put new HVAC in it, and that's something that is going to be outsourced, right? That's just my opinion, but that's a complaint that we get. Let's redo it. And I think the last number that we had was right around $200,000 for that.
and that would be within that expenditure category I'm pretty comfortable with. So, because I mean, we're trying to identify anything that we can fit within that 1.2 million. And I'm not sure, as I'm reviewing those two items with Brian, we'll look and see if any other projects that came up through budget might fit within there. I don't know if there's any way part of 6th Street, the new entrance, if we could make that work, that might be a stretch. But we can at least review those categories again, because it's been a while since I've looked at ARPA. And maybe we can come up with some ideas of getting that money spent. The general county money's easy. There's lots of wants.
How much is an elevator? Go up one floor, 2 floors, I guess. One down, one up over here. Take that elevator out.
Do you know that one, Hal?
I can see what we spent on this one. That one.
How many stories?
Basement, main floor, and the upper floor.
So 3 stops. Probably looking at a minimum cost for just the elevator somewhere between $75,000 and $90,000, and then you have your elevator shaft, you have your structure that goes outside of all of that, on top of that.
Would they be able to use the existing structure? Because you're talking in the elections building, right?
Yeah, well, and what we're talking about is even out here, putting a breezeway across on the 3rd floor and just go up 1 floor. We can go, and so you could go to the 2nd floor in this building or straight across to the
Upstairs.
something of that nature too, so we could utilize it in 2 spots. We'd end up having to have ACOR come in and cut everything out on that 2nd floor up there. And then I talked to you and I talked to these guys about building a school over there. I mean, we want to talk about projects. There's a lot of things we could think of and that could benefit, but
Keep in mind timeline,
yeah,
because we're at probably a year and a half
yeah.
to get this done.
All I gotta do is give Dan a deadline and he'll meet it. I've witnessed it firsthand.
Just don't watch the comp time.
Okay, we'll have to throw money in as overtime.
Why don't we write down all these deals and
I think I've got most of them except for the elections elevator.
And then let's kind of get a guesstimation of prices that we have and put us in the ballpark. And so, and then have that out to everybody. And next Thursday, let's talk about it again and prioritize
Do we-
exactly which ones.
Do we need maybe a little bit more time to get cost estimates?
It's just a guesstimate. I don't
Okay, I didn't want
know
to
how.
push too hard on.
Dan, what's the square footage up there? If we did this and built this, the school over here to move the kids, which I think is a good idea, what square footage do we have up here and what do you think we would need over there?
Up on the second level
On
of
the second
elections?
level up there, that's actually usable space that they're using.
I'd have to look at that. I wouldn't want to guess. I'll get that number for you. Second floor elections.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they'll probably need, similar square footage. So probably in the footprint that we have available over there, we'd probably have to do a 2-story structure to get equivalent square footage.
That's pretty chopped up over there, isn't it?
It really is. So the usable square footage that's up, if you look at the whole footprint, it's huge. But if you look at the usable square footage, it's not that big of what they're actually able to use. They've got that classroom and a couple offices and
How many
a kitchen.
students do they have in that program?
Maybe, what,
12?
yeah.
There's a lot of wasted space for sure over there.
Yeah.
I want to say it's close to 3,000 square feet total, but they're
Mhm.
not using near
Yeah,
that
but
much.
they've got to be half that.
Yeah. That HVAC doesn't work over there either, so it's kind of a tough space to use.
Talk about that. How long is our boiler going to last?
Yeah.
It makes me nervous not having a backup. There used to be 2 boilers down there, and one of them was removed. So that boiler goes down, and we've got nothing.
We're wearing jackets.
Yeah.
Bring your blanket to work.
Yeah, people already do.
Yeah.
But is that enough time, or do you want a little more time? I mean, I just want to kind of push this along. We've met plenty of times and talked about different things. I think it's time to set the goals.
We're going to meet, we turn over the clerk's recommendation next Thursday, but we're going to start commission meetings on the following Monday, the 17th.
I won't be here that day.
Okay. But maybe what we could do is, we could include that as part of that meeting. We could block out maybe a half an hour or an hour if you wanted to include it as part of that. Thursday works too. I just thought,
Like I said, I just want to, we've talked and we've talked and we've talked. Well, now it's time to make our plans and go.
Let's put it on the agenda for next Thursday and see, and Dan can call it off if he doesn't have enough time and enough numbers back, that it's not worth it, and cancel it.
Okay.
I'll have something for you.
Okay.
See, deadline. He knew it.
I could give you an L.
Yeah, prioritizing and some ballpark numbers, I think will be,
Easy.
yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
What are you gentlemen here for?
I was here with Hal. I didn't know if, he said it might be on the agenda this week. I didn't see it on the agenda, but I wanted to make sure I was here just in case. So.
Tax appeal for Thunder Mountain.
Okay, all taxes, there isn't any scheduled today.
She sent me an email and said that we would schedule for 10 o'clock on Thursday. I can get the email.
Well, I can tell you it's not on my schedule, which means it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Don't we have some this afternoon?
We have administrative this afternoon. What's that? What's your name?
Nicholas Hobelt.
I think she may have gotten the date.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? She said, the quote in the email from Christie said, "I spoke with the commissioner, he said I could move you to Thursday, July 7th at 10 a.m. I'll go ahead and do that now."
July 7th is Friday.
So July 7th is Friday.
Yeah.
So I read Thursday.
Oh, yeah, made that mistake.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll be back tomorrow.
All right, we'll be here.
Okay, sorry.
No problem, no, like I say, I'm looking at my agenda and I don't see anything, so.
No problem. It was a misunderstanding between Christie and myself, and a Thursday instead of a Friday.
All right, thank
It is
you.
what it is.
Thanks.
Thank you. And what was the project that Hal was wanting to talk about?
So I've got a road going up to a parcel that I own up in Income, and I was trying to get a building permit up there. When I talked to Hal, I met with Hal in October. We originally talked about I have a BLM right of way, and I asked if that was gonna be okay, what I had, and he said that would be okay, but now that we're doing the minor land division, the county came back with some conditions that I can meet, but at too great of an expense. And if I would have known that, back in October when I talked to Hal, I wouldn't have moved forward with any of that. But now that I'm $5,000 into, the survey and the minor land division, I guess we were gonna ask for an exception on this road.
Okay, and I'm gonna stop you there, because if it comes back to us as an appeal, did you go to the land use board yet?
I don't know.
Okay, because it'd go
Hal
to,
just said that he was gonna put it on the agenda. He called me last Thursday and said he was putting it on the agenda here. This was the place that we would need to do it.
I don't see it
And
anywhere.
I didn't see it on the agenda when I checked yesterday. I called in, left a message with Hal, never heard back, but I wanted to make sure that I was here.
And Hal just left. That's
He's
who,
on the phone after, I think,
okay.
so.
Yeah, it's not on our agenda, so it isn't something we can.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I was here, so I wasn't the one
No.
looking like, with mud on my face. So.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
I appreciate it. I'll talk to Hal.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.